All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Ryan from Plan Chats. Happy July 28th, last week of July before the 2021 school year. Kind of scary that this is happening so soon, but thank you for joining us today. Today we have Tam Larnerd, who is a principal at Spring Valley High School in Las Vegas, Nevada. So Tam, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm honored to be invited. Thank you very much, Ryan.
Thank you. We are so lucky. Tam is our first principal on Plan Chats. So I'm very excited to get his perspective on world languages, on challenges with distance learning, talk about IB, and then his amazing Mandarin Chinese program at his school. So Tam, let's just jump into it.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so tell us a little bit about your background. What got you into education, and especially what led you on the pathway to become a principal?
Well, I moved to Las Vegas in 1994, so I'm starting my 27th year with the Clark County School District. I actually moved here from upstate New York. I taught health and was the leadership student council advisor at Basic High School here in Henderson, was a varsity soccer coach. And one of the main reasons I moved to Nevada was to get a master's degree and to get it cheap compared to New York. And so I got my master's degree in 97 from UNLV in educational leadership. And one of my buddies that I taught with, Dr. Tim Stevens, said, "Are you going to apply for leadership?" I'm like, "No." He goes, I'm going to apply. I'm like, "Well, if you're going to apply, I'm going to apply." And so we both went through leadership together in 1998. And then unbeknownst to either one of us, within literally 24 hours of completing leadership, we were both appointed as deans of students. And then that was back in 1998. So I'm making myself sound really old right now, but I was able to had the opportunity to be the principal at Bob Miller in Henderson, Nevada, starting in 2003. And I was so excited at Miller because we had just an amazing foreign language teacher, world language teacher. His name's Eric Ecker. He teaches Spanish and French. So I love being one of the only middle schools in town that offered 2 foreign languages for high school credit. And then since 2014, I've been the principal at Spring Valley High School. Spring Valley is the only national demonstration AVID school in the state of Nevada. We'll talk a little bit about AVID later. But about 5.5 years ago, I got a call from the previous superintendent informing me, voluntold me, International Baccalaureate Magnet School. And because we were under enrolled, we had my first year, we finished the year with 1,779 students for a building that was built for 2,600. So clearly under enrolled. One of the qualifications to become a magnet school. And so we partnered with Johnson Junior High School, which is about 3 miles to the north. Mr. Annis, George Annis is the principal there, and created an IB magnet school. And actually we're partnered with David Hudzik at Piggott as well. So it's one of the few K-12 continuum where you can start an elementary school at Piggott Elementary with Mr. Hudzik, go to middle school, Johnson Junior High School with Mr. Annis, and then matriculate into high school at Spring Valley High School for our middle year program, which is grades 9 and 10, and then hopefully into our diploma program for grades 11 and 12. We've grown to literally just in 4 short years to be one of the largest international baccalaureate high schools in the Western United States. We'll have over 600 IB magnet students going into the 2020-2021 school year.
Wow, that is so impressive. And I hear you have a really good diploma rate, IB diploma rate.
Well, my coordinator, Mr. Gebby, and I were at a training for an IB training, and one of the facilitators said their first year they had 1 IB diploma candidate that actually earned the diploma. We're pushing 50% this year for our very first year, about 50 kids. Hopefully, we're still waiting for scores for visual arts, but it should be close to 50, which is unheard of for a school in their inaugural graduating class for IB. And it's just a testament of the work that Mr. Gebbia, Ms. Welling in the IB office, and then just the absolute, I always say every principal says they have the best teachers. I'm the only one that tells the truth because
Right?
got the best of the best of the best. There's no high school that can compare to what we've put together at Spring Valley High School.
You know, I agree. I've toured your school once and it was phenomenal. I came back to Washoe County and bragged about it to everybody, anyone that would listen to me. And you're right, you do have some stellar teachers at Spring Valley. I know some of them really well. So
Well, and I think it's my job, when we bring people on board, we pretty much set the tone and the expectations. And then, very quickly, it's clear to me whether they're ready to meet them or not. And then if they do, it's my number one job to get out of their way and let them do what they do best. And so I love to be the king in the land of yes, finding a way to provide my teachers with whatever they need instructionally, or whether it's professional learning. We've got systems in place to support them with that. But for whatever reason, we've been very, very fortunate in the last 7 years at Spring Valley and have brought on, and it's not just me talking, the proof is in the accolades. We have 4 Kiwanis Educators of the Year. We've got 3 in the last 3 years, Heart of Education Award winners of the year. I think we've got about 15 national board certified teachers and counselors and a librarian. And I could really kind of go on and on. I mean, these people are at the top of their game. They're not just great classroom teachers, but they're great leaders. And not only in the school, but in the district. These are people who serve on district-wide and even statewide committees representing what's best for kids. And every day they show up to work. Well, they used to at Spring Valley.
yes. So you just made every teacher watching this extremely jealous by your king in the land of yes.
And they'll tell you, I hope they will tell you, survey results tell me that they appreciate the support. We get a tremendous return on investment by purchasing teachers' prep buys. So teachers, we run an 8 period block schedule. So 4 periods a day, A and B day. And so teachers are hired to teach 3 of the 4. Many of my teachers agree to teach 4 out of 4, at least on one of those days. And so for every 6 prep buys, which cost me about $35,000, our strategic budget then recoups the difference between the $88,000 I would be charged to hire an actual body to teach those 6 classes. And so we've been very fortunate that I've had just amazing teachers. And I'll use my department chair, one of the planned teachers of the year, Amy Murray. For her to be willing to teach 35 to 40 more kids, it's a win for Tam right there. I've got 4 kids with literally the best foreign language teacher this year in the state, and actually in the region, in the Southern United States. And so I'm glad that they're willing to do that. In our new normal, we'll see how that looks, but we're at a school where in the past, things were very, very good financially.
Wow. And so this brings up an interesting topic. So you mentioned the IB program. And then I know in middle years program, all 9th and 10th graders are required to take a world language. So tell us about that, because a lot of high schools, a lot of teachers they're not familiar with that experience where it's a core class where everyone has to take it. So what are some challenges and advantages you see with that?
So it's not an elective at Spring Valley in 9th and 10th grade. You have to take a foreign language. And fortunately, we're the only high school in the state of Nevada that offers Mandarin Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Spanish, and French. We have 5 full languages that are as options for our kids to meet the needs of the community that we serve. But when we first began this endeavor of IB, we had to almost double the size of our foreign language department to accommodate that. And so you're flying all of these IB language jobs and people are like, woohoo, I want to be an IB teacher. And so we had a long list of applicants. And then the reality is, though, it's not really, be careful what you wish for, because, a lot of foreign language classes, world language classes are comprised of kids who are college bound, that they want to make sure they have 2 or 3 years on their transcript to look good for college applications. And at Spring Valley, you get all the kids, all of our 9th and 10th graders, whether they're, in their mind college bound or not. All of our special education resource students also take a foreign language. So I think it was a little bit of a wake-up call for our teachers that came, even the current teachers that, and I don't want to say I don't have a lot of sympathy, but I taught health education, which was stay nines 1 through 9. We used to use stay nines. And so I had the whole continuum in my class as well. You have to differentiate. You have to reteach. You have to check for understanding. You just can't, shoot for the stars and not look back. You have to look back. You have to make sure all of your students are keeping up with the standards and the concepts that you're teaching.
Wow, yes. So how many students would you guess in ninth and 10th grade take world language? What's the student population we're talking about?
Seriously, Ryan, almost every single one of them. If they're a self-contained special education student, they're exempt. If we have a documented language deficiencies in their mother tongue, in their IEP, then we usually work with the IEP team to get them to focus more on learning to read and speak English. But we're talking very, very few. Out of the, I think, 1,300 9th and 10th graders, probably about 1,250 will be enrolled in a foreign language class this coming year at Spring Valley High School.
Wow, that's amazing. So speaking of world languages at Spring Valley, how do you see world languages applying to college and career readiness for students?
I just think when you look at the world that we live in now, this global society, it's actually one of my great regrets that I am not fluent in another language other than sarcasm. I speak that pretty well. But, I wish I spoke another language, and so many of the kids exiting Spring Valley High School will have that advantage over their peers, whether it's just what it looks like in the college application, or if you look at business and industry, they're always looking for people who can communicate with a diverse group of potential customers. And so it just provides such an advantage for a student to be at least bilingual. We have some kids that can speak 5 or 6 different languages at our school. It's just amazing to be around them. Like, what can you speak? You can speak that too? Like, oh yeah, in this dialect and that dialect. We have a tremendous Ethiopian population at Spring Valley High School. Little Ethiopia in Las Vegas is zoned for Spring Valley. And some of these kids can speak 7 or 8 different languages already, just from coming from Africa and to the United States. They just bring such a rich addition to the Spring Valley community.
Wow, that's like the zone jackpot for your school. That's great. Do a lot of students at Spring Valley earn the seal of biliteracy?
Many, yeah. We have a lot of stickers on diplomas for that. So, really, as far as the actual population of ELL students, we're about between 350 and 400 out of 2,600. So it's not like a lot of high schools in Las Vegas where it's 50% or more. But a lot of our ELL looks very different than most other schools in Las Vegas because we do have that population coming from Africa. We have a very large Eastern Europe population that comes in, and we are in a part of town in Southwest Las Vegas that serves probably the most Asian families. And so we're about 16, 17% Asian as well. And so these are kids that come in already speaking Mandarin and English, but now they want to learn Korean or Japanese, or, so it's kind of neat to be at a school where you have this rich melting pot of cultures and languages all at one school.
Wow, sounds so diverse. I love it.
It's one of the most diverse high schools in Nevada. I think right now on the record, we have 33 different languages that are spoken by our students.
Wow, that's great. And then talk to us a little bit about your guest teacher Mandarin program.
So we've partnered with the Confucius Institute for the last probably 5 or 6 years. I've actually had the opportunity to travel to China with the Confucius Institute. And so the problem with that is that they come to America to teach Mandarin, but they have a degree in English from China. And so when they get to Nevada, in the great wisdom of whomever, they make them take the English praxis exam, which is so hard that a lot of English college graduates can't pass the English praxis exam. And so they rarely, if ever, can pass that. This is actually our first year we've had the same guest teacher for 2 years in a row because they gave her like an exemption. So what that meant to us, though, we loved having these guest teachers. They contributed so much to the culture of our school. The problem is to be an international baccalaureate teacher, I have to invest probably anywhere from $2,500 to $4,000 in you to attend international baccalaureate trainings to learn their curriculum, because it's very specific in the diploma program, and also the middle year program, how to do the unit planner and all of that. And so I just couldn't justify investing that amount of money in a teacher that might be with us only for a year or two. And so we've kind of had to take Mandarin off of the menu of foreign language options for our diploma program kids, which was heartening, or it was disheartening, because we had kids that would come from Johnson Junior High School, from Mr. Annis' school, and he had guest teachers there too. So they already had 2 or 3 years of Mandarin experience. They're all gung ho. I'm going to take Mandarin for my diploma program, world language. And then we said, no, you can't do that. You got to pick one of these other ones. So we just hired a brand new teacher, permanently lives in Las Vegas, Yuli Soon, and we're very excited to bring her on board on August 5th. We will do everything we can to get her up to speed and trained as quickly as possible, so we can start moving kids into that track of being a Mandarin IB student.
Wow, that's so great, and it makes total sense why Mandarin can't be part of the diploma program.
It will now.
It will now, yes. Last thing I want to ask you about, Tam, is you are a national demonstration school for AVID. And AVID is near and dear to my heart. I'm the AVID director in Washoe County. And I just think it's a phenomenal system for students and teachers. Both benefit from AVID. And so tell us a little bit about being an AVID national demonstration school, because I know it's not easy. You mentioned you're the only one in Nevada.
So the difference between being an AVID school and an AVID national demonstration school is that all of the best strategies, best practices that are, and just for the people that are watching, if you're not familiar with AVID, it means advancement via individual determination. So it's a program that came out of Southern California about 30 years ago, geared towards those kids in the middle that have demonstrated that if given the right supports, they can not only be successful, but they will go to college. If you help them and push them along and push them into those honors and AP classes, they can be successful if given those wraparound services and supports and tutorials. And so at Spring Valley, AVID was there when I got there. I'm not taking credit for that, but we had about 275 AVID students. This year, we're looking at about 600. We've over doubled the size of the AVID program. And I think we'll have 16 or 17 sections of AVID at Spring Valley High School. It's really, I tell people, it's woven into the fabric of Spring Valley. So not only do those kids have that elective where they research colleges, they do organizational strategies and binder checks and tutorials, but if you walk into any classroom at Spring Valley High School, what you're going to see is what's called Wicker: writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. And not maybe every second of every lesson, but they're embedded throughout the lessons. Teachers are expected to intentionally weave those strategies into their instructional practice. In fact, we even bought magnets with WICOR for them to put on their board next to their daily objective. So if I walk in, I know what to look for. Oh, they're doing collaboration today. Oh, look, they're in groups. They're, dissecting a paragraph or whatever. So, it's very intentional. One of the school-wide strategies that we have at Spring Valley is the AVID binder. I'm kind of referring to my mindset of the old normal. We're still trying to figure out how we're going to transition that into the
right.
There are ways. We're talking a lot. These have been a lot of our conversations this summer. But if you walk into any classroom at Spring Valley, every student should have an AVID binder and be taking focused notes. So those notes are the tool that help them be successful on the assessments. And at Spring Valley, we have, to me, grades should represent what kids know, not what they may or may not have done, meaning homework, because that's just practice. And so, and you have to inspect what you expect. And so the AVID binder is actually 10% of a student's grade at Spring Valley. So once every week or two, the teacher will say, okay, today I'm looking for the pencil pouch. Everybody show me your pencil pouch. All right, today one of the AVID binder strategies is teachers literally hold it upside down, and if nothing falls out, then they get full credit.
Make it fly. They make their binders fly.
Open up to your science notes. I want to see your focus notes from science. And so it's very quick and easy for the teachers, but it holds the kids accountable that this binder is important. This is a skill that will help you be successful, long after high school with its organization. And those
What?
are woven through the school, I guess is the thing, is that's what separates just an AVID school from a demonstration school. We host teams from all over the country that will come to see AVID at Spring Valley. And I love to host them and love to walk them into our classrooms. And so it's not just, me making a presentation, but they get to see it live in action with our AVID teachers. And we actually make our AVID teachers apply for those positions. It's not like we go, oh, who's going to teach AVID? I mean, when we have a vacancy in AVID, we put it out to the faculty, and we'll usually have 5 or 6 teachers apply to be that next AVID teacher. They're excited. They want to do it.
That's so great. You are so well versed in AVID. I love it. You really are.
7 years, and I've gone through 2 national demonstration reauthorizations. So it's not just words to me. True AVID is in my heart. I know it's what's best for those kids. And the other piece with AVID are these are kids who normally come from homes that qualify for free and reduced lunch. They almost always are first generation college bound, not always. And then many of them also, AVID students, come from an underrepresented subgroup in college. So these are the kids that they've just never been on that push on that college track. I mean, most high schools, a lot of high schools, they push them just to graduate, get them across the stage. If you're an AVID student, the expectation is you go to college. And almost every year, Ryan, for the time that I've been at Spring Valley, we've had 98%. We've had 100% graduation rate with AVID kids compared to, I think this last year, we're at 92% for the school. 100% of the AVID kids graduate. 98% go to college. And the only 2% that don't, they go into the military and serve our nation and our country to come out 3-5 years later to then pay for college with their GI Bill.
Bravo. Those are great statistics. I mean, you can't argue with 100% graduation rate. I mean, that's so awesome. I lied. I have one more question for you.
All right, hit.
What is your favorite part? And you've touched on it a few times, but I'm just curious. What would you say is the one thing that you cherish the most, that you love the most about being principal of Spring Valley High School?
It's got to be the community. The students at Spring Valley High School are unlike any other students. Again, this is my 27th year. I've been around for a little while. I've never met such polite, kind, motivated students who, I'll give you an example. We always talk about the Grizzly family, and I know a lot of schools kind of position their community as this family or that family, but we have a teacher, our graduation advocate, who's funded actually by SB 178, which unfortunately was just cut by the legislature. You can read into that, what I think about that. But it's actually been on the news, so I'll use his name. Mr. Ramirez is fighting the fight of his life with adrenal cancer, and came back from this year. And we had 2 students. This is a graduation advocate. This is a guy who, in my mind, is solely responsible for, Spring Valley had a graduation rate of 70% back in 2013. Our highest we've been since I've been there is 94%. And Mr. Ramirez was absolutely a big part of those numbers. We had 2 students, IB students, who on their own, without being asked, created a GoFundMe, hoping to raise $5,000 to support Mr. Ramirez's family. Within 2 weeks, it was up over $20,000 for this teacher and his 2 kids and his wife. And we just love him so much. Even though he's fighting his fight, he'll still drop in on our faculty meetings because we were doing virtually, of course. And but that's just one of many, many examples. And to be able to kind of ride out the end of my career working with and serving a community like Spring Valley, it's I couldn't have asked for any more. I was a principal at Bob Miller. I loved my time at Bob Miller. I was there for 9 years, the last 3 years with my own son. The Bob Miller community will always be near and dear to my heart. But these last 10 years, so I retire in 3 at Spring Valley, is something that I hope when I ride off into the sunset, that I've left the place better than how I found it.
Wow, Tam, you gave me goosebumps with that last story. This is so great. I feel like in this short amount of time, I've learned so much about you, about Spring Valley High School, and it really is a remarkable school. So kudos to you and your staff and your community, because it really is a great school.
Thank you, Ryan. Again, my job is to stay out of their way. And, I think if I have one gift, I was going to say, if I have one gift, I can hire some really good people. And, but then when they get on board, we point them in a direction, and I just love to sit back and watch, the great things that they accomplish and the great things they do for kids, not just for themselves. Because I mentioned a bunch of accolades, and, those aren't things that necessarily these people ask for. Our Heart of Education Award winner this year, Miss Lara, this was her first year at Spring Valley, and she completely transformed our robotics program from a completely dysfunctional program that didn't even show up at the state competition last year to very quickly being one of the top 3 programs in the county. And guess who nominated her for that award? Her students. They made 5 videos and sent it into the Smith Center to nominate their favorite teacher, Miss Lara. And the videos were incredible. These are kids who, if they didn't have robotics, I don't know what they'd have. And it's only because Miss Lara is there, and she's just created this program that is just thriving. And you know what? And even in the online environment, with these teachers that we have, they're going to get this. They're going to nail it. And if anybody can do it, I keep telling them, if anybody can do it, you guys can do it. And when you look back at March, when we shut down on March 16th, the first school that did Chromebook deployment, Spring Valley High School. The first school that did a senior parade to honor the class of 2020, Spring Valley High School. The first school that did an online virtual senior awards night, Spring Valley High School. I mean, it wasn't, again, it's not me, it's these amazing educators who just can't. Anytime we ask for volunteers to either hand out caps and gowns or graduation, regalia, or collect or deploy Chromebooks, we almost had to tell people no, like, well, we can't have 40 people there to handing out Chromebooks. We need 10. So you can come tomorrow. But that's the Grizzly family. And it's just another example of why I'm just so proud and honored to have been given the opportunity to serve the Grizzly family.
Wow, Tam. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on Plan Chats today.
Ryan,
and yes, of course. And thank you for supporting world languages. On behalf of Plan, we need advocates out there, and we know world languages is so important, and it's such a life skill. And so thank you for being an advocate.
You can always count on me. Thank you.
Thank you. And then so that'll do it today for Plan Chats. That was great. That was fantastic. Loved it. We will be back next Tuesday on August 4th with a very dear friend of mine, Michelle Ola from Florida. She is a former World Languages program coordinator outside the Orlando area. So she'll be joining us next week. So stay safe, everyone. Have a good last week. If you're returning to school next week-ish, we don't know. I'm gonna go check out the school board meeting up here right now, but stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.